Yeah, I'm back. It's week aching. I'm here. We're talking hockey. Why have I been gone a year? Where's all my cool hockey stuff behind me? A lot of questions to answer. Not answering them in this video, but guess what? I'm back. We're talking hockey. Let's get into it. So you read the title. I am going to be talking about the Eastern Conference this evening. I'm going to be talking about the standings as far as what the playoffs would look like right now. What's the wild card situation. And I'm going to give you my feeling, the week-aching feeling about how I feel about all these teams. I said feel like 5 times. But I'm going to tell you what's going on in my mind about these teams. Let's start. So, in the Metropolitan Division of the Eastern Conference, in first place we have the Washington Capitals, Alexander Ovechkin's team. I mean, what do we expect? Obviously after the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, they've gained a lot of confidence. And I mean, it's definitely showing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Ovechkin, Oshie, John Carlson, Holtby, I mean, they're all phenomenal players. They're all doing a phenomenal job for that team. But I think that Stanley Cup victory obviously has given them so much confidence. And they're showing by, decimating the league. And they're really hoping for a deep playoff run. They want to show that they can get another cup. Ovi has so much he wants to prove. He has so many people he wants to shut up. Winning another Stanley Cup will absolutely cement him as not only a player that can score lots of goals, but actually use that talent, score those goals, and actually make them count and raise another cup. Washington Capitals right now in first place in the Metropolitan Division, and right now they definitely do deserve it. Now, following up the Washington Capitals is my favorite team, and that is going to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's how the announcer sounds at the PPG Paints Arena. Pittsburgh Penguins in second in the Metropolitan Division in the East. Now, the craziest thing about the Pittsburgh Penguins right now is the fact that half of their team's been injured. Crosby, Malkin, Rust, Tanger, Hornquist. I mean, so many players in the Penguins lineup have came in and out. They've had to call up so many random names that it's so crazy to actually understand, either the depth pool that Pittsburgh has, because they're doing this with not that many people from their back-to-back cup win right now because they've all been injured or they've left the team, but mainly we're talking about the injured ones, let's be honest. And on top of that right now, so really it's either the talent pool it's got a lot of depth, or B, Mike Sullivan is just a godly coach. Honestly, I think it's the latter. Don't get me wrong, a lot of these players have skill, but Mike Sullivan's system and just the way the Pittsburgh Penguins organization is run right now, it's pretty spot on. And Brandon Tanev was actually a pretty strong signing as of right now. He's an effort player that has speed. So it's basically a Patrick Hornquist that has legs right now. Not saying not saying he can't skate, but I mean, you can't compare him to Turbo. His nickname isn't Turbo. Pittsburgh Penguins second in the Metropolitan. Following that up by the New York Islanders, the team that has superseded their dynasty as far as amount of point streaks. So this is a special Islanders team. It's given a lot of Islanders fans so much hope. And how could you not? If you don't forget, they did sweep the Penguins last year in the playoffs. 4 wins, and it was over for the Penguins. Now, Islanders, they just got to keep it up. They got to keep their mind on the prize. And they do play a slower style of hockey, which I do respect. Some people don't like the slower style of hockey. They think it's boring, or at least people think the Coyotes play is boring, but we're not talking about the Coyotes. But the Islanders play a very similar style. They play kind of a shutdown neutral zone, and as long as they score a couple goals and those goals allow them to win the game, they don't need to score 4 goals. They're fine with scoring 1 or 2 goals a game. If it gets them the W, if it gets them those points, if it gets them to the playoffs, they don't care. It's a victory. New York Islanders doing a phenomenal job. 3rd place in the Metropolitan right now. I really want to see the Islanders make it back in the playoffs. Not only does the team deserve it, their fan base deserves it. And it's phenomenal to see a coach like Barry Trotz just continue his streak, continue just doing so well. It's really amazing to witness. Now, a team that I don't really care about, a team that basically is the missing dynasty. The missing dynasty of this last decade. Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins have made the Stanley Cup 3 times in this last decade. Won once. Only once. And honestly, the hockey world's happy with that because not too many people are a fan of Marchand. If you start licking and kissing people, you're probably not going to be liked by too many people, especially in hockey. Now, you're a very talented player, but unfortunately, that really overshadows him a lot. But other than that, the Boston Bruins, you got a phenomenal squad. It's so impressive how talented this squad is. I mean, you made it to the Stanley Cup final. You brought it to Game 7. Like I said, you are the hidden dynasty. You just couldn't finish, which is, I guess, to your fan base unfortunate, but to some people that are like, oh my gosh, they're sick of Boston winning things because of football. Boston Bruins, first place in the Atlantic Division. So right now we're talking about the Atlantic Division. Next up is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Last year, I believe they won 62 games, which is just about a record, especially a franchise record for the Tampa Bay, but almost a league record on top of that too. They tore up the league last year. They tore it up. And then they got shut down by a Columbus Blue Jackets team that was desperate for a playoff victory. And they swept this team, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So they kind of have something to prove. They got to prove they can get back to the playoffs and that they can actually put their foot down and say, hey, we've made it to about 4 conference finals in this last decade. We need a cup appearance. But it's a very competitive league, and they're a team that can definitely compete. Tampa Bay Lightning is definitely a team to fear. Absolutely. So, in my mind, keep your eye out for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm pretty sure they're going to make the playoffs. I think their confidence is back. They've been ripping through teams left and right. When they destroyed the Canucks the other night, that's a confidence boost. When you rip a team apart 9-2, that's a confidence booster. And I think that's something that the Tampa Bay Lightning needed. They needed to remind themselves that, yeah, we can actually destroy teams. And they're going to keep doing that. They're making the playoffs. Second in the Atlantic Division, Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the Leafs. The Maple Leafs. Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, some people think that their reason for their victories right now is because they fired their coach Babcock in November and they let O'Keefe, I believe it is, take over. I honestly don't think that's the case. I honestly just thought the team was slumping and they have godly talent on this team. I mean, they have 4 players on their squad that they're paying over $40 million for 4 players. Can you believe that? That's a lot of cap hit for 4 players. But, I mean, they're 3rd in the Atlantic right now. That skill is starting to prove its worth right now. But honestly, you got to get that cup. You got to prove to the fan base that you're not going to lose to Boston in the first round of playoffs if you happen to play them. You got to show that you can push past something like that and, weird to say this, but earn the respect of these expansion teams. Because ever since the league expanded, you have done nothing. And honestly, you kind of appear like an expansion team right now. No one cares about your history pre-expansion. That's meaningless. Honestly, there's a lot of these original 6 teams. All of their previous achievements don't really matter anymore because there's so much more competition that it's not beat 5 teams and you win a cup. Not like that anymore. You got to crush 30 other teams to get to that cup. You got to be better than 30 other teams. It's a lot more difficult right now. 6 times more difficult if we're going to do some math. But Toronto Maple Leafs are 3rd in the Atlantic. Now, as far as the wild card in the Eastern Conference, first we have the Hurricanes. And if you haven't seen Dodgeball, that is one of my favorite movies. That's what that's from. So if you haven't seen it, I just looked really stupid. But we got the Hurricanes. They, upside down Hurricanes. Hi-oh. But these Hurricanes, oh my goodness. They're a phenomenal team right now. Sebastian Aho, you got Timo Teravainen, you got Andrei Svechnikov, who's so good, has his own signature move already. Something that's never been done in the NHL, like ever, has never been done. This guy's done it twice in one season alone. So goodbye, Michigan. Hello, the Svechnikov. I mean, Carolina Hurricanes, and when they, oh my gosh, let's just talk really quick. I'm going to go on a tangent. That throwback Whalers jersey. Oh my gosh, that is a beauty. That is a beauty. They definitely need to wear, they need to do like a Whalers month because, or I mean, let's just be honest. Hey, Gary Bettman, why don't we just bring them Whalers back? Because who doesn't want to see some Whalers? I want to see some Whalers. Who doesn't want to see some Whalers? I'm sure they want to see some Whalers. Anyways, Carolina Hurricanes, first right now in the wild card, right up there to be in the playoffs. They're doing phenomenal. Storm Surge is lit. Fun to watch. I can't wait to see this team get back in the playoffs. You got to be proud for a team that had such a huge drought, a 10-year drought, a decade, because everyone keeps using this word decade recently. It's starting to get annoying. Sick of these puns. Sick of this stretch of the imagination. Carolina Hurricanes first in the wild card spot. Next comes in is the Beach Cats, the Florida Panthers, one of my new favorite teams. But the Florida Panthers, can they score goals or what? I mean, the Florida Panthers is the antithesis of a team that the point of the game is to score more goals than your opponent, and the Florida Panthers have to do exactly that because they let in a lot of goals. Just about as many as they scored, to be honest with you, but they're still up here. Tonight, they scored 8 goals against the Maple Leaf. 8 goals. 8 goals. I mean, that's a lot. They let in 4. Unfortunately, they did take the foot off the gas, and they let 3 in. I mean, the second period of that game was nuts. But Florida Panthers, they're a team that can do really well. They're a team that deserves respect, and I'm sure they're going to gain that respect extremely, extremely soon. Once they make the playoffs, once they show up, and that's the crazy thing with the playoffs is that's when it highlights the skill. That's when everyone has a light shown on them, a spotlight shown on them, and people are going to see what the teams are capable of. Florida Panthers are going to start getting some respect around this league. Second in the wild card slot right now, Florida Panthers. Next, we have the Flyers. Now, the Flyers are such a good team. Unfortunately, Oscar Lindblom, man, getting cancer. I'm going to take 5 seconds for that guy. It's such a terrible thing. Everyone's pulling for that guy. It's so beautiful to see everyone around the league wearing the Oscar Strong or Lindblom Strong shirts. That is some camaraderie. Even though people are beating each other up and whatnot in the actual game, but outside of the game, if you're a hockey player, they feel for you. And that's the greatest thing about hockey is the camaraderie in the sport. But the Flyers got to pick back up. You got to play like a bleeping Flyer, says their coach. And that's even the headline of their Twitter. It's such a great model. It really is such a great model for the Philadelphia Flyers. They got to pick it back up to get back in this playoff picture. This is a team that if they miss the playoffs, I would be scared to be a fan. I'd be extremely scared to be a fan because with the talent they have right now, they know their window is closing, and it's closing quick. So some of these players on this team are going to learn very, very quickly that it's going to be a ride or die situation, and some players want to get that cup and might look at joining another squad. Flyers, though, we'll see what happens. Honestly, we'll see what happens. The Lightning Killers, the Blue Jackets. Now, the Blue Jackets, last year, they spent all their money. They rented so many mercenaries to play for the team, and guess what? It worked out. It worked out so well for the Blue Jackets. They won their first ever series ever. They swept the top seed in the entire league, a team that almost that was setting records left and right, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the sad part about it is that everybody left the Blue Jackets because I'm pretty sure that nobody likes John Tortorella as their coach. No offense to you, Tortorella, but look at your team, man. It's a shell of what it used to be. honestly, it's a shell of what it could have been, too, if you could have gotten some of these players to sign. But the best thing is that, John, you can coach that team, and they believe in themselves. And you have inspired this team, this squad, to believe in themselves when they thought that they were possibly going to have to go into a rebuild, that they were going to be looking at trading some other guys away for some prospects. They held on. I think it's Jonas Korpisalo is the name of your goaltender that's taken over the place of Sergei Bobrovsky. Oh my gosh, has he done well? You have to be excited. You have to be excited if you're a Blue Jackets fan because you're actually staying competitive right now. Hats off to you, Blue Jackets. Now, the next team is one of my great friends, Jason's favorite squad, the Buffalo Sabres. Now, the Sabres is a squad that has so much talent on it, and honestly, you got 2 first overall picks as far as Jack Eichel and Rasmus Dahlin are concerned. You also have one of my favorite Pittsburgh Penguins ever, Connor Sherry, who was traded to your team to unload a god-awful contract in Matt Hunwick. Don't even know if that guy's still playing for your squad, honestly, but you got Sherry. But unfortunately, by the Sabres, it just feels like Eichel's just carrying this team on his back. Now, Dahlin is starting to develop. Skinner's doing all right. Sherry's doing all right. Ristolainen and Middlestad's doing all right. But, oh my gosh, Sabres, play some defense or that goaltending. I just can't tell you what's going on. But that goaltending, I think, honestly, right now, a lot of silly mistakes. I don't know if you need more development, or I don't need if you need to light a fire under one of those goalies' butts and say, hey, we need to see some performance out of you or we're going to have to replace you. And honestly, I think they're going to have to replace Allmark because he just, as far as what the Sabres have done so far, it's just not what they want. They need to get back in this playoffs. They did the exact same thing that they did last year. They made it to December, and they fell apart. They were showing the league off. They were pedal to the metal from the very beginning, and then they took their foot off the gas, and they crashed. And now they're trying to figure out who they are. The identity of the Sabres, nobody knows yet because they're a team that when they're working together, they can do great. But it just feels like one chip on their shoulder and they fall apart, which has got to be so difficult to be a Sabres fan. I want to see you make the playoffs. I want to see a phenomenal playoffs with a lot of teams that we just don't see too often. Buffalo Sabres. Now, we have the New York Rangers. Now, the New York Rangers is a team that got one of the best free agent signings in Artemi Panarin. Now, the flip side is Artemi Panarin cannot carry a team by himself at all. Yet is the big word. He's still developing. Don't get me wrong. He's an amazing player, but he's learning a new squad. He's getting used to a new coaching staff. Could be getting used to a new system, used to different energy in the room. But, I mean, as far as the team is concerned, they're not, god-awful by any means. They're still extremely competitive. Now, honestly, I don't think you're going to make the playoffs, and I think that's a better thing for you because I feel if you make the playoffs, you're going to make an early exit, and that's going to be bad for the morale of this squad. I think this is a development year. You learn how to work together. You learn your other players. You learn the system, and honestly, I think they're going to trade Georgiev, I think is his name. Excuse me if I said it wrong. Which is, I mean, it's neither here nor there in my opinion, but the New York Rangers, I think you got another development year. Not there yet in my opinion. The team that's won the most Stanley Cups, Montreal Canadiens, has gone in a huge slump. And this slump is so large that the playoffs are almost becoming a joke for them. As in, they're not probably making the playoffs. They are probably just going to fizzle out. It's going to be a development year. Now, you just signed Ilya Kovalchuk, which is cool, but honestly, I think he would have done way better on the Coyotes, or way better on a different team that actually had a chance. Now, Carey Price is a phenomenal goaltender. He can't carry this team. You need to score. You can't just play defense. You're not an Islanders team. You can't get one goal and just rely on your defense right now. Because unfortunately, that's just not working for the Canadian squad right now. In my opinion, I don't think you're going to make the playoffs, and that's a good thing. Making the playoffs isn't always a good thing. You want to develop, you want to get some good draft picks, and honestly, the practice and just that overall team bonding is the more important thing, in my opinion, for a squad like the Canadiens. Ain't making the playoffs, in my opinion. Now we got the Devils. You started this year with 3 first overall picks. Now 1 left to the Coyotes, which I think Taylor Hall was an older fella. By the time that Hischier and Hughes were going to develop, he was going to be out of his prime. He wasn't going to have his talent or the legs, his stick handling, the hands that he has right now. He's not going to have that dangleitis right now. So the Devils they got Simmons, they got Subban, but oh my gosh, they just can't put it together. Today, Ray Sherrill, their general manager, was relieved of duty. He was canned today. He's out of a job. And obviously with the Devils' performance, it makes sense why he would be out of a job, but you got to look at a team that has such young talent. Like, you got to develop. Hughes and Hischier aren't going to develop in 2 years. Hughes has only been on the team for a year, but Hischier, of course, last year's first overall pick. You have to be patient. Wait 4 years with this team, and I'm sure you're going to have a competitive squad. Absolutely. But right now, it is not your time, which is good. Let Crosby cycle out. Let Ovechkin cycle out. Let Malkin cycle out. Soon your first overall picks and your team's going to develop into something that's going to be scary again. You got a good horizon. Now, second to last, we got the Ottawa Senators. Now, if I got anything to say about the Senators, is you have a lot to be proud of as far as Anthony Duclair right now. He is a player that is definitely showing up to these games and actually showing he wants to win. He's showing the team that, hey, I know that maybe our owner isn't the greatest guy in the world. Hey, maybe we're not doing so great in the league, but you know what? We can still try. We can still get goals. We can still try and impress our fans. We can still show people to believe in Ottawa. And that is really exciting to watch. Now, I'm not a Tkachuk fan at all, but Brady Tkachuk is definitely keeping this squad inspired. And that trade with the defensemen that went to, or the players that went to the Maple Leafs that the Senators received, actually wasn't a bad trade at all. So, Senators, you need to develop. You need some more talent. You need a lot of depth. But overall, honestly, you need a better GM or owner. That guy is... I feel really bad for your fan base. I feel terrible for your fan base right now. But I hope he can pull it together. I hope he can really provide for this city. I really hope the Senators can do better. But after they lost to Pittsburgh in that double overtime, it's like Chris Kunitz actually took that team down with 1 goal. They are a shell of their former selves. They're at the Eastern Conference Final 3 years ago. Look where they're at now. Finally, the Detroit Red Wings, a team that has won 10, maybe 11 wins right now, 12 wins right now. Over the entire season, 12 wins. That's so bad. But honestly, you're the one team that I just don't care if you do too hot, because in the 90s, when I was growing up in the early 2000s, you won everything. You won so much that I was sick of seeing you. If the Detroit Red Wings, and the Red Power Ranger is one strong reason why I don't like the color red at all. I almost despise red. But the Detroit Red Wings, they're scrambling to figure it out. Steve Yzerman's definitely going to help this team figure out what's going on. They're going to draft and they're going to build. I think it's a team that's going to be dangerous when the Devils are going to be dangerous. Now, that's what's going on in the Eastern Conference, the Metropolitan, and the Atlantic. We went over the wild card. So tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about my opinions, because I like talking about hockey. Leave some comments down there. I'll respond to anybody that comments in those comments. If you like these videos, you can always subscribe so you can see more of them, and they'll pop up in your feed, obviously. So why not do that? Sounds like a good idea to me. So thanks again for tuning in to another Week Haken video. This is Week Haken. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next video.